being recorded.
Good afternoon, everybody that is tuning in to listen to Number One Leading Ladies, a podcast by women for women, where we focus on building each other up instead of tearing each other down. I feel on fire today. I had a great rest yesterday, so this is going to be a great podcast. We have a special guest today with us, Victoria Wieck, and I'm actually going to have her introduce herself to everybody because I won't do it justice. Victoria, go ahead.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to your show, and I love the concept of your show to have women finally not to tear each other apart. I've been advocating that we stop comparing and competing with ourselves, but actually to lift each other up, because that's the way we're all going to succeed in life and also in business. So I love that. Just going to a little bit about my background. I started out as a pretty poor immigrant. In fact, $30 back in 1989 1971 is when we came, but 89 is when I started my business. And I started my company with, I did a corporate thing for a little while where I was really, some of the meanest women at that time that I ran into were actually women. They were a lot meaner to me than most men would, and men were plenty mean enough. So that was pretty rough. So I actually left the company and did my own thing. And I had a dream of making $36,000 a year. I wanted to make $3,000 a month, so I could be a mom at home and take care of my children and kind of do what I love. I'm an artist, and I wanted to design jewelry, and everybody told me you're not going to succeed. And especially jewelry was a very connection-oriented business, and a young girl with no connections. Female-owned businesses were just not even heard of at that time. So now, as I speak to you, I think when my bio was written, which was like in 2017. I had done over $500 million in sales with the little company I started.
Wow!
So I will say that, and I'll say, Kaylee, on my way there, I have literally helped anybody, man, woman, anybody who has ever asked me for help. I've generously, shared what I know so that they wouldn't have to make the same mistakes. And so my company's been still growing since 2017, obviously. So I don't know what the number is today, but right now, my company is kind of on a cruise control, where my money's making money and my brand is making money on its own. And my products are sold in over 35 different countries. And they're all over Western Europe, Eastern Europe, all of Asia, all of Middle East, North and South America. So you don't have to tear people down to get ahead in life. That's my whole point.
That is an amazing message, seriously, because being newer to the business world, I've been just so blown away by the amount of people that are willing to just cut people down, and not just other women, but just the people going, Oh, okay, you're new, you don't know. Okay, so I'm going to take advantage of that. And it's incredible. Right. like go get a job, find something else to do, because what ends up happening is the people that, can't collaborate, or the people that feel like they need to spend time doing that. And I've compared people that, like yourself, who have been very successful with those that spend extra time to, literally not mind their own business. They might, for example, in real estate, they might have, I think I interviewed someone, 400 million assets under management or so. And then there's another couple I know that's very collaborative and very different. And they started after him in time, and they have over $1 billion in assets under management, so it's just such a big difference what you can do when you treat people the right way. So that's a great message. Thank you so much for sharing that. I can't believe, I'm so blown away by the success that you've had. So I have a couple of questions for you, because I think that everyone in the interviews, anyone that we interview has a different perspective based on the stage that they're at with their career, getting started, etc. So this is cool. So one thing that I like to ask is, what would you say over time had been what it really took to make it? So, for example, a lot of people think business owners have it easy, that they can take time off, we can take a vacation, we can whatever. But in reality, what I find is that, we traded the 9 to 5 to work 100 plus hours a week kind of thing, especially in the beginning. And then over time, like you're saying, on the back end, we figured out how to scale. But, some of us had to take out a loan to start our first business. Some of us had to live with our parents. Some of us had to make major sacrifices to finally then get to some traction where we're going, oh, people want to buy my stuff. It finally took this to get there. What did it take for you to get past all of the beginning stages of a startup and then into getting to traction and knowing that you were doing something that you were going to scale?
So I think that you might find that my story to be very different than most people because I didn't start out my company with a normal goal. Okay, so my goal was $3,000 a month, but also I was not willing to work more than 20 hours a week. I have an MBA. In fact, I have 2 MBAs, which actually didn't really help me very much in my business. I'll go into that in a little bit. In fact, I've had to unlearn half the stuff that I learned. But I would say that, in business, you have to embrace failures. You are going to have days when nothing is going your way. You're going to have weeks when you think you give it your heart and soul and you think, oh my God, I finally got it. This is it. Like, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to focus on this, blah, blah, blah. You do all this stuff only to find out, okay, well, that didn't work either. You come to these points where you're doing all the right things and it just seems like everybody else is walking away with the main dish and you're left over with the little crumbs. And when those things happen, you have to remember that without the rain, you don't have the rainbow. So you really have to embrace those little failures that's going to eventually lead to your success at the end. It's hard to see that, but you have to do that. And then number 2, stop listening to any experts. All these experts that are out there telling you, they're the expert in whatever. Okay, I'm just going to give you 2 examples. Number 1, all of the MBA schools in America, in fact, all marketing courses everywhere will tell you 2 of the most effective words in marketing are the words free and new and improved. That's a lie. Okay, first, I'm going to tell you that right now, because nobody in the American public will believe that anything is free in life. Okay, even though they're getting the stuff for free, they know there's a catch. They know that it's not that good quality. They know that if you buy something else and you get this one for free, that they've actually marked the 2 things together. Okay, people are not that stupid. Okay, so they know that. Number 2, new and improved. Well, if it's new, it can't be really improved, would it be, right? So if you think that's a contradiction by itself. So to me, so I started my life here with $30. We had no money. That's 7 people, my family of 7, 5 kids and 2, parents, $30. So, we didn't actually, we had to go get a single orange and cut them into 8 sections. We didn't have any money. Okay. So when I started my company, I didn't have any money. So I didn't have credit. I didn't know anybody. So I had to make do with what I don't have, which, instead of bitching about what you don't have connections, you don't have expertise, you don't have money, you don't have customers, all these things, think about something that you do have and kind of work with that. So for me, I'm going to tell you up front, the $500 million journey. In fact, right now, I would guess I'm at $700 million or something. But here's the deal. I've only spent like $10,000 or less in total advertising for the whole time. Okay, so it was all kind of word of mouth, creating a premium trusted brand in my category. So I elevated, innovated, and then eventually dominated my category. So stop listening to experts because everybody listens to the same people and they all do the same thing, and 80% of those businesses fail. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. That's one thing. So the experts right now will tell you, if you start a business, you're new, you're young, you're a millennial, you're an old person, 60 years old, facing whatever stage you're at, they'll tell you, unless you have some unique selling proposition or unless you've got something chic and unique, you're not going to succeed. Well, you know what? Those chic and shiny toys, people see through that. They see the authenticity. They see, so when I started my company, I had no money. I couldn't make a single sample. Okay, I could not make a sample. So when you don't have a sample, how do you go sell your stuff to anybody, right? Well, I didn't let that stop me. I basically drew all my designs in 3D. So I had the top view, I had the side view, I had a 3D view. So, they were very nice and they looked like they could be, like real jewelry you could actually put on. Then I went to the Neiman Marcus on Rodeo and Wilshire. And then across the street, there was Saks Fifth Avenue, which is where the Hollywoodville people, shop there. And I just went to the department store manager and said, hey, the manager wasn't available, so I got the assistant manager. And I asked her, I have no money. I'm almost kind of embarrassed to show you my drawings, but it's going to be really elementary because I don't have any experience in this. But, since you see like the best of the best of the best, can you just give me some advice on, like, if I could have, if you had something like this, would you ever be able to sell it? And if you can't, could you tell me where I could? So, believe it or not, these people both in Saks and Neiman's, the assistant managers were like, most of our customers actually don't want anything in the case. They actually want something that's coming down the pipe. They want something that nobody else has. And yes, they would buy them. Money is no object. They would buy these like right away. So at that point, she actually sold a few pieces for me. I left my lookbook and, they went out and sold. And the thing is, I knew at that time that was not representative of all of America. Okay, I needed to find a little bit more than 2 stores. So, but the point is, you got to think outside the box. You don't listen. If I listened to all the experts and said, you are not going to succeed and you're not going to whatever, I probably would have stopped there right there. But I didn't, because I didn't have a choice. I couldn't give up on my dream. I did not have a choice, so I did that. So I would say, to answer your question, don't ever give up on yourself. And if you follow the masses, if you follow what 80% of people are doing, you're going to be like those 80% of the people. They're going to be struggling. So think about, you have it within you. So the other thing I will tell you is the number one pillar about how I built my business is that you have to build a customer-centric company, okay? Whether your customer is real estate investors or a lady buying jewelry, you have to make her feel like she's part of the game, that she's in your journey with you, and she's helping you get there. Because Americans love underdogs. And any of you who are listening right now, don't try to have this persona that you or your company is perfect, you're doing all the right things, because people hate people like that.
Yeah.
They do. There is nobody who's really perfect. It's all just sort of a fake thing. Be honest. Ask people, you matter, your opinion matters, give me some advice, and so basically, with everything that I do, I think about 2 things. I mean, I look for quotes on Sundays, every Sunday. I go through all the books and all these quirky quotes from, people to get myself inspired every Monday. So Monday through Friday, I can kind of live with that. But the one that I think about most often are 2 things. One is by Nelson Mandela, and he said something like, "It all seems impossible until it's done." Well, think about this man who's been in there for 30 years. And I think when he said it, it was, like 28th year or something. You figure you're never going to ever get out. Okay, you've aged 3 decades by that point. But he didn't give up on his dream. So what happened? He came out, became president of the country, and he pretty much changed the landscape of how we see apartheid. And when I hear that, it all seems impossible until it's done. It's like not getting it done is not even an option, right? So don't even think about, so what is it that you're going to, not getting it done is not an option. So what are you going to do? What can you do? Because you're going to have to do that. So that's one. The other thing is Maya Angelou's quote, and I love, this is how my company was built. And it's her famous saying, people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So I make jewelry. When I make jewelry, before my company was formed I formed my company in 89. I worked for a jeweler, and the industry was so toxic. They, figured like they have all the money. They have, we're going to sell you these 2-carat diamonds for X because we have our own grading system and it's worth X amount of money and it gives you status. I came in and thinking to myself, okay, well, so if you can't afford a 2-carat diamond, you're going to feel like shit, basically. I didn't want to do that. So, it doesn't matter how much money you had, or it didn't matter how little money you had means to make you feel elegant, make you feel feminine. Back in 89, I mean, most of the women who worked at that time outside the home were judged by men, like, oh, your husbands can't afford to have you at home, so you're working. To women who are like, oh, what's wrong with her? She's leaving her child at some nursery, and what kind of a woman does that because she's like a cruel person? So we got all these judgments everywhere. We had to wear clothes that looked like men, pretty much with little suits with little bow ties. Yep. And there was no way to really feminize your look or to individualize a person's personality. So I felt that there was a huge need for women who had to go to work every single day looking like those, our men counterparts, to look like you're elegant, you are polished, you are intelligent, you're successful, you care about yourself, and do it in such a way that's not so ostentatious with a little style. And so that's who I focused on. And all my messaging was really catered towards her. So instead of saying, I'm an award-winning designer, I, designed this, and I have connections from, here to God, whatever, all these things that people would say about, we're the biggest jewelry company, I would come in and say, hey, I understand what it feels like to, go to work, put those hours, and if you want to have a little polish, you have a way to differentiate yourself without breaking the bank so that you could have money left over. I mean, you're not buying $20,000 pieces of jewelry from me. You could have heirloom quality pieces with something that personifies your style, and it's all under like $200. So you can save money, look great, feel great, and you can leave it for your future children, children or grandchildren. And so what I would, a lot of my messaging, and I on my TV shows, I've been on HSN for 19 years and 11 months, and I'm on Shop HQ now. So when I go on TV talk about my jewelry, instead of saying something like, oh my gosh, fall is here, I love fall colors, and I love whatever I love, and I designed this wonderful collection for you, and I went to Sri Lanka and all these places, sourced all this stuff for you, and whatever. But that's one way to sell something. Okay, it's a lot of eyes. Or you could say something like, you know what, I know that you guys love fall, because when fall comes around, you get all those great clothes that you can wear, and guess what, right around the corner from fall is Thanksgiving, when you're going to get together with your family and friends, the people that matters the most to you. When you have those wonderful gatherings, you can glow, and you can sparkle, and you can do all this without having to break the bank. Now, I use the word you like 5 times for the one eye. Okay, so what happens is you're almost in the living room with them. So who are they going to buy from? The one that says, I'm great? The other one says, I think about you, right? How are you going to wear it? So I think in answering your question, think about who you're serving, believe in yourself, and you have to believe that you are the very best person to serve that customer base. And if you're not, you have to keep working to be the best. That's all it really takes, really, Kaylee.
This is so good. Like, I have so many notes written down. I need to get a whole legal pad. This is great. I mean,
such a long-winded answer, but it is what it is.
No, your perspective is awesome because, again, like I mentioned, we're all in different phases of building our business, whether we haven't yet or we're struggling, or like for me, I'm starting to get traction and trying to figure out how to best serve those people. So I'm trying to reach out for feedback at this point in time and figure out, how do we pivot now, to give everybody the best experience. And that's so I've gotten some awesome advice, and everyone that's listening, I would definitely take it from someone who's done it. Again, one thing I talk about all the time, whether it's on a podcast or book or whatever, is just that, a lot of people talk, a lot of people try to give advice or say, they've never done it. So we're listening to someone now who's done it, and on the back end is saying, okay, looking back, here's what it took. So really write this down like I am, and then I'm going to look at this on my Wednesday team meeting and go, hey guys, here's what we're doing, So this is great. One question that we do like to ask everybody that we have on the podcast is, what would you say has been your biggest lesson?
Well, I think that the biggest lesson is really, I have a real problem. I still struggle with this. I'm going to full disclosure here. When you have to picture me 30 years ago, I was younger and I looked like, I used to go to theaters when I was 30 years old, and they would say, are you guys minors? Because I look so, Asian people.
Lucky.
So easy, I could have just said yes, and I could have gotten junior tickets until I was 40 or something. So I looked pretty young. I looked like a kid. And so I was kind of underestimated a lot by a lot of people that I was buying from. And I was too naive to kind of figure out, a lot of these people didn't have great intentions, and they've actually practiced, being a vulture all their lives. And so I got taken quite a bit, like, for example, when I first got my orders, and I was finally going to make like 8 samples. And remember, I had no money. So, samples cost somewhere between $300 to $1,200, depending on the complexity of the original sample. If your product is highly original, that's what they're going to cost you. So I finally, after I got the order, I was like, okay, well, I want to make sure that it comes in correctly or whatever. So I told her, like, don't sell anything, like, don't take any money until I get the samples. Well, I got this when I went to shop for manufacturers. Manufacturers would ask me, so, if I make this sample for you, how many can you sell? Okay. Well, being a really honest, naive person, I didn't tell them I had orders waiting or anything. I just told them, I don't know. I mean, I could sell 1, I could sell 10, I could sell 1,000, but whatever it is, it's going to be a guess. I mean, I'm brand new. I'm just going to tell you upfront, I'm brand new. And if you can't afford to sell it to me at cost, then you just have to let me know that. I'll go to the next person. So, 3 or 4 people said, no, we don't want to do business with you because they figured like you're a real long shot. Okay. They didn't want to take the time to do that. A couple of people said, yeah, we'll do it because they saw the quality of those designs. They saw that they're highly marketable. They saw it's very fresh designs. So instead of like saying, pay me money up front or whatever, they made those samples and they never sent it to me. They sent it to all my competitors. So, and I didn't even know it. I was too stupid to even know that. I contacted them and everything. I didn't know that. So these manufacturers knew that if they sent the samples to me, it's just going to go to waste. Okay. But if they sent it to somebody that's already doing business with Saks or Neiman's or Macy's or whoever, they figured they'd get an order right away because they also knew that even if I got the order, since I didn't have money, how was she going to afford how was she going to kind of float the money?
Yeah.
Right. So all this happened to me over and over and over again, just because I'm a very down to earth. I don't have anything flashy. Like when I go to Hong Kong or China or, any of these places where things are actually manufactured, I kind of travel to all these places, the factories with like a JanSport backpack. I don't actually go with, fancy handbags or anything because, I'm making money off of their labor and these people may be making $50, $100 a month. So I don't feel right to, kind of be the show off. So out of respect, so they probably figured I don't have any money. So, pretty much I got, and those companies, sold it to places like QVC, Saks. Oh, my stuff was selling everywhere. He sent me back like 6 months. And even now though, Kaylee, I still, the shysters now at a bigger scale. Okay. But here's the thing, I had to decide at some point. There was a time when I was taking like $150,000, $300,000. Like it was like a pretty devastating loss. But I figured I can either be a nasty person and trust nobody and start every relationship with you're a liar until you prove to me, or I could still start with you're a good person. There's great good in you until I give you some reason to be bad. So trust the person until they do something bad. But now that's what I'm doing. I'm trusting people, but I'm managing the responsibilities that they could have. I'll test them small, that kind of thing. So I think that's a huge lesson that as females, we're underestimated a lot. In the beginning, I used to kind of get angry, like, oh, they would never talk to a guy this way or whatever. But at some point, I just realized, being underestimated is a really good thing because they don't expect anything from you.
Yeah.
So eventually, I kind of made a kind of living out of being underestimated.
Yeah.
Underestimated, non-victim.
Yeah.
That way.
Oh my God, that is like the best lesson I think I've heard just because it's so applicable to me personally, and I hate to make this about me or whatever, but I'm sitting there going, yes, yes, yes. Oh my God, like all the things that you're saying, but you're coming out on the back end, and I'm in that place right now where I'm trying to not let it jade me, and I'm like, like what do I do right now?
Yeah, not to interrupt you, but that's where I was when I first started. Like you're so young and fresh looking, and they figure somebody who's been in business a long time might look at you and go, what could that girl actually really know? Okay, so I'm just gonna like live off, like get her to introduce me to 6 other people and just pluck whatever she has good out of that because she can't do anything, so I might as well make something out of it.
Correct.
And if I do something really great, I might, if I really, because I'm such a nice person, I might just give her some crumbs. People have a very bizarre way of thinking their generosity, but that has happened to me many times. And but it didn't stop me from being a good person. It didn't stop me from like I have helped so many people get on TV, like on HSN. And I mean, seriously, some of these people have made 50, 100 millions of dollars of sales off of me because one thing I do know is how to talk to American women. I have more than 10 to 15 million women who purchase my jewelry in my career. So I know how to talk to them. I know what gets them going, and I know how they feel, and I know how they shop. So these are like information that a lot of people, won't have, but I still share it, because I'm not at the point where I need to make money every day to survive. I would have been happy. My goal was 36,000 a year. Okay, but I would have been happy if I only ended up with 24,000. That was my like home run situation. So, I guess I kind of overachieved my goal by a couple of digits the first 2 years or so. So I went from the hardest was going from 0 to first million. That was about 18 months. But I would say from that point to 10 million was a little less intense, but it was still pretty good. But, from 10 to 100 million is like nothing, really.
Yeah, so I guess as part of that lesson, it's a little bit different in like my lens to your lens, different industries, how things work, but it's essentially the same type of people. It's essentially the predators, essentially people that, for me, I had to look back, and right now, like I said, I'm trying to figure out how to not get jaded by trying to learn a lesson from it and try to keep that lesson in mind, because I have to move forward. I'm not going to just sit in a corner. And for me, that lesson, I think you kind of said it a little bit, has been figure out not how to just completely reject people and keep them in the cold until, they prove themselves, because people were going to, it's not going to work. It's not worked for me the couple times I've done that. But more about going, okay, I'm going to slow down just blabbing all the trade secrets, all of my secrets, all my family's information, all the things that can be used against me or used to profit from what I do have, and realize, everyone that's listening here, that the creativity that you have, or the skills that you have, or whatever product you're producing, or whatever you're doing, there is immense amount of value in that. And I know that when you're young, it's hard to see, I'll just take a cut of this fee because I'm going to be doing it and it's my first one, second one, third one, whatever. There's major value in what you're doing. And so talking to someone who's more seasoned in that industry about like, what do they charge for that service? How do they protect themselves? How does this really work in their structure? It gives you some good, like a groundwork, I guess, for being able to protect yourself. And it's okay to pull back, all the information, just to be able to at least protect your bottom line at the end of the day. Because, I've run into people like that, whether it's another partner, whether it's legal, whether it's, other predators that just look at me like, oh, you can't afford to do anything about it. I'm going to take advantage of you. So that will happen. And I guess that's kind of the reason why it led me into creating this ecosystem of women and the security company that I have now, just because of all the stuff that I've had to realize, we can do something about it, and but we have to support each other. So here's these resources that I created after going through it myself. Use that, please. And then we have this big group that has some kind of oomph behind them, so that we're not alone, trying to get up the ladder, because that target, like you said, on your back just gets bigger and bigger over time. So you have to, you have to look out for yourself. What would you say, I guess the last question I've got, this is so good, I could go on for another hour, but what would you say has been the biggest win for you so far?
Well, the biggest win for me is, so in Asia, I wouldn't say all of Asia, Asia is a very large geographic area. So where my family comes from, you would determine the word success. You would define the word success in a very different kind of way than a typical American would do. For example, we consider success as a place where it's a perfect balance between 5 things. The first thing is health. The second thing is wisdom. And then the third thing is like quality of your relationships, like relationship with your parents, your kids, people who you care about. And then longevity of life, because, that's also a blessing. And then the last thing on that spectrum is wealth, okay, like monetary wealth. So I would say the biggest win for me is, we came here as immigrants. I saw my parents for the first time doing manual labor. Like the next day when he found out his money was all frozen, like we actually lived a pretty good life in South Korea. Came here. Korea was run by military junta. They froze all the assets. So when my father found out he didn't have any money, he actually just walked down the street didn't speak English either, like pumped gas. Okay, so pumping gas, cleaning office buildings, all this stuff. So I was able to, I would say about my third or fourth year, I was actually able to put my both of my parents back to school, have them realize their dreams. So my father actually went back to a 4-year college where it's a Oriental medicine medical school, and he eventually became the president of the university, and put my mother back to school. And I have an amazing. I would say I got all 5 of that. I mean, longevity, that's to be determined because I'm still not that old. But when it comes to wealth, I have more than I ever thought was imaginable for me. And I realized that like when I was maybe 40 or something, 35-ish. And the other thing is I have millions, literally millions and millions and millions of women that, look up to me, that's experienced what it's like to have, heirloom quality jewelry that they didn't have to pay a fortune for. I mean, during COVID, I heard from so many people, is your family okay? Like, even if it's on Facebook or whatever, that's enormous. A lot of people don't even have family that reach out to them, so
Correct.
It's really enormous. And I would say that being able to, I kind of felt guilty during COVID, and that's why I started my podcast, $1 Million Hobbies, because, I worked really hard. I still have an amazing work ethic. I get up every morning at 5:30. And I've been a pretty, kind person to everyone who's ever come to me for help. Even if I know they're going to stab me in the back, I still feel like that's my duty to help people. But I still felt like during COVID, as you know, during COVID, all the online businesses went, they had like a real heyday. So my business was on fire. I was doing my TV shows out of my living room as opposed to having to fly there. And, money was coming easier. I was spending time with my family. They were all healthy. And I felt like, what? I shouldn't be this selfish. Like, I just have so much to give. So I started doing my podcast, and I started offering free workshops, which, by the way, you and your team are invited to come to. It's only open to 20 people a month because I kind of want to have meaningful conversations with whoever comes there. But I took the 6 key pillars that any business would need to build an empire. You can always build the business, making more revenues than costs, so that you're actually, have a business that's profitable. But in order for you to scale up to the level that I have, you're going to need to build a premium brand. And so I took the 6 key pillars, like, mastering storytelling. What story are you going to take? Because everybody's story is important, and that's the most valuable thing you can have, actually, if you're a small company. So I do these workshops for free, and basically they've been very successful. Like the first time I gave how to get visible, thing, I think I had like 300 people sign up the first hour, and, it's a couple thousand people who had to stop it. And that's when I decided I want to do smaller workshops because it took me like 4 hours just to get through the questions, but there's so many people there.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to have, and I can't do this all the time because I still have a very active business, all these countries. But what I'm doing is giving some time that I can and giving them real, valuable, actionable information. And and then there are some companies, Kaylee, like I did one of the participants was a guy who built a whole new platform. He's got 50,000 people on his platform. And, it's like that's already like $100 million business. And he said, I can't stop thinking about all the storytelling we could do, blah, blah, blah. So, they keep coming back. So, some of them are very small. Some of them are bigger companies that are tech oriented, but they don't know how to do the emotional connection. So I'm doing all the 6 of the key things that I think a modern entrepreneur would need. So you guys can come and, first of all, listen to my podcast, which I bring in only people that have incredible transformation story. So, for example, we went through the manufacturing industrial age, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Then we went through information age where people were paying for information, their data, and you were buying for keyword searches, you're buying all this stuff. Today, it's all basically for free, right? All the information out there is all free. Today, people don't pay for information anymore. They're paying for transformation, only if you can actually deliver transformation, right? So I bring in people on my podcast of incredible transformation stories, and most of them have never gone to college. Most of them have never been to any trade school in their field, but all they had was this heart, and they're all doing more than $1 million with their business. Some of them are like $200-300 million. So I do that, and then combined with the free workshops I give, I think that, and then I have a book coming up that they can sign up to. That actually, it's I've taken my company in 7 very simple steps to scale it. So it's that's my service to society, and I work with a lot of women's networks. I'm the co-director of the Global Society of Female Entrepreneurs. San Diego chapter. We're very active helping female-owned businesses. So, it's what I try to do. So.
Wow, Victoria, I am beyond impressed and blown away by the time that you've spent with us and the amount of information and value that you've given us, whether, it's another female that's starting an ice cream business or wherever she's at in her career, or mentally preparing for the journey that's ahead, wherever we're at. I mean, it's just incredible the amount of value you've been able to provide to our audience. Thank you so much. And for the extra time today too. And everybody that's listening right now, I just want to thank you as well for hanging in there with us. This is an extra long podcast, and I really wanted to continue on just because there's so much here. I mean, Victoria, if anyone is listening to this podcast or watching this later, how can they get a hold of you and engage with what your mission is?
Yeah, they can come to victoriawieck.com. It's WIECK.com. And ladies, if you are somebody who's done anything, okay, even if you have failed in everything you've done, you have value, meaning that if you're going from here to, from San Diego to San Francisco, and you never actually got to San Francisco, your car stopped, somewhere up in Bakersfield, you have still seen all the landmines. You have still seen the dangers, right? So you have value. In fact, those people have probably more value than people who never paid attention and just got straight there. So, if you are able, connect with somebody, anybody, and share your information, because that might help somebody. It actually might, turn their lives around. And I think that if you do that, that would be worth, your time. So thank you for hanging in there too. I didn't mean to be so wordy with all my questions, but as you can see, I'm a little passionate about my situation. So
that's awesome to see. I mean, it's genuine and real and transformative, obviously. So everyone that's listening, I really look forward to the effect in everyone's life that is listening to the motivation that you provided, the information that you provided, and then resources as well. I'm going to touch base with you after this as well. There's a lot of synergy that I see. But everybody that's been listening today, thank you so much. This has been Victoria Wieck, an awesome, amazing, impressive entrepreneur that we've had on the show today. If you're looking for any more episodes, we'll be back again next week interviewing another leading lady on our podcast, working to build each other up instead of tear each other down. And I will see you guys soon. This is Kaylee. See you next week.